Right, hello. So it's a little bit quiet Friday, so I wanted to keep going at this query thing. So I think I know what we need to do. So if you don't know, we've been working on this query and we've been talking about um, how to handle sharing state between queries. That's basically it. So if you have a list of to-dos, but you also have queries for individual to-dos, right? You want to be able to share a common state for those. And it took some time to just iterate on certain things, and then that bled into other things. But I think I know what we're gonna do. So we're not gonna do this getter concept that we tried. That was not a good idea. Type of function. We're not gonna do any of this. That was not a good idea. Let's see. Oh, wait. Oh, sorry. Dot promise. There we go. I think I had some more of these. So this would just be value. Type of function. This would also just be value. There wasn't any more? No. Okay. So what I think we should do is that, okay, so by default, you'll do this thing where you just have the query, right? And the thing that kind of pissed me off in the last stream is that hi Alex. So what pissed me off in the last stream is that we realized if we're gonna do these fetching functions, then they can be aborted, right? So we can't have any side effects in them. They have to be strictly getting the data and returning the data. But what we can do is we can have a second callback here. That's what we're going to try now. And in that second callback, we're going to get the data. So this callback is only called if there's an actual like non-aborted fetch to-dos that runs. And when we get the data here, we are free to do whatever we want with it. So we can like make changes to it in the sense that we want to wrap it into something. We know that this is another thing. We know that the query is fulfilled. So that means that we can also safely assume that we can update any shared state. That's also really nice. Yeah, this is the thing. This is the thing. So normally you wouldn't need this callback, right? You can just access this query. You have all the cool tools and everything that we were so happy about the first time. But now we're gonna add this one. So let's add the typing for it, and then we'll see how we're gonna implement that. So, well, what the hell should we even call this? I guess we can call it transform. That's fine. So this is going to give us the actual data that we get. And now the interesting thing is like, what are we going to return here? And so the thing is, yeah. So we should return something, but I think it needs to be an O. And the whole point of this function, well, this is the thing. Like the point of this function is that it could be, oh, first, now I removed the function thing. Maybe we should keep that. Anyways, so doing a transform means that, could mean that you don't want to have any shared state. You just want to transform the data that you get back, right? And okay, so I think we're going to try to apply the same concept here, where either you return O or you return a computed of O, or a getter, whatever you want to call it. So how is this going to work? How do we do this? How do we make... Let's see, this is going to be promise of T, but this is going to be a query of O. But the problem for me now is that this transform, it's optional. And I wonder, does it understand that? This is the thing I don't understand. Let's see, how do I... Can I default O to T? Is that possible? I'm gonna ask it. Do I have explain? Yeah. Does it make sense that I make O default to T? Because I only want the query O to apply if we actually run the transform. If no transform, it is really a query T, right? Explain to me. It can make sense. Setting O to default to T means that if no transform is provided, TypeScript will infer. However, keep in mind a couple of things. Users will get the intended experience where omitting the transform results in a query T, while providing a transform means the query now reflects the... Yeah. If you could provide one order for when no transform exists and another for when... Yeah, I think, yeah, that would be best, right? Let's do that. So either you have this, or you have this one. Oh, shit. Query O transform. No. Good question. No, I typically use Claude 3.7, I guess is the one I typically lean to now. And I changed that one. If I'm using Copilot. So if Copilot gives me like, I had some issues. I did some really brute forcing transformation of types into OpenAPI specs, and I got a lot of errors and rate limits, and then I changed it. But yeah, I guess it's because I'm using ChatGPT, the ChatGPT app, a lot. So if I have coding questions, I typically use O3 Mini there. So it's just, yeah, I just know it. It's a... I have a stronger relationship with it just by the fact of using the ChatGPT app. But yeah, I'm pumped for... Have you tried the Gemini 2.5 Pro? I'm super pumped for that one. I hear it's good. I tried Gemini 2 Flash, which was also very impressive. Super fast. Where were we? Oh yeah, we had this query thing. Oh. And now I think this is gonna make sense. Like the funny thing about these overrides is that you can just do random stuff here. And the typing will still work. But yeah, I think we're gonna stay with this. Anyways, we're just gonna evaluate if this makes sense even. So we're getting our data here. Now we're getting these to-dos, and I could choose now to, and the reason we have a second callback again is because the fetching of the to-dos can be aborted because you might revalidate again or whatever. It's not guaranteed that it will actually finish. So with this data in hand, I might do something like map it to something else, wrapping the data with some custom state management stuff, or I might want to change it into a record, or whatever it might be. But this is like part of replacing the value of the query. But what I can do here as well is that I can say data like this, and then I can rather do I can rather update that one, right? So I can go through this data, and then I can see if I have the data here. So instead of like replacing it, I can update the data, which is way more efficient for reconciliation and everything. Yeah, that's pretty nice. But it's still like a little bit convoluted. Like you have to, especially with an array, like what's been deleted, you have to figure out what's deleted compared to what we already have. But the point is the prev data is todos.data. And then you have the new data here, right? So you have all the flexibility you need to do whatever you want here. But the point is that you have to return what this query is going to point to. And you could just return whatever you choose here as a reference. But it might be that this query, which we're going to see with a specific to do, is that this query actually derives from this data. So now the data, like this reference is the same as this one, because I'm going to say data dot, just to have like a, todos.data equals data. So now I can like return, yeah. Damn, why doesn't TypeScript understand this? Very annoying. So technically now, assigning this data up here, I'm returning the same reference. And whenever I replace the data up here, I'm also returning the same reference, right? So I have this references in sync, so that doesn't matter. So I can even like return data here if I wanted to do that. And that's like a little bit concerning to me that you have to think about that stuff. But you have to think about references in React as well, just the opposite way. Like we talked about in the last stream, in React, you have to think about ensuring that you change references whenever you update something. Well, now you have to think about that you keep references for optimal reconciliation. Let's see. Yes, so that's fine, right? But it doesn't make any sense in this context of just having to-dos that you like have this shared state. It has to be because multiple queries wants to interact with the same data. So that's this one. Where we have, where are these erroring? Do query is not assignable to type to do. To do query. What the hell? This returns. Oh, where the hell? Why does it say that this doesn't work? Oh, it returns a query of function to do. Oh, sorry. This is old code. Sorry about that. So we're not going to do any of this. Oh, this is old stuff. Sorry about that. So again, we're just fetching data here. That's the only thing that these callbacks can do. And the same here. It can only return data. Oh, sorry. Let's clean this up. Return data. There we are. So first callback only deals with the data. Go and grab the freaking data. And then if we want to do something about this, we need to add a second callback. So in terms of the fetch to-dos, what I wanted to do here is I wanted to make the to-dos data a record instead of, so I'm getting an array, but I rather want a record so I can more easily look up to-dos. So we'll do this reduce thingy. And then, you know what? We're going to do this const record. I'll just return that record. But we're also going to assign it to-dos.data equals record. Cool. Yes. And then the question becomes, okay, so how do we update? So whenever we fetch a single to-do, what do we do with that to-do? So I'm getting the data of the to-do here. Data. And now we can go in and we can say that actually the thing I want to store here, I want to update this shared state of to-dos. So it doesn't matter if I fetch all the to-dos or I fetch a single to-do. I'm going to go and store that to-do in the shared to-dos data. And then the question becomes, can you just return that data? The problem that happens is that if I just return the data here, and for some reason I go and revalidate all the to-dos, I'm gonna break this reference. But the only reason I have this reference, yeah, I'm gonna break this reference. So what practically happens is like, so I went to a specific to-do, like a page of a to-do, and then maybe I've already loaded all the to-dos, but doesn't matter. I also have this specific to-do. And now that query for that to-do, that's stored up here. And then, yeah, it's stored up here. And then for some reason I navigate away. And then I come back. And when I come back, I decided to revalidate the actual to-dos. And then that means with the logic I have here, this record is going to be completely replaced. But then I open the same to-do where I now have a cached query with the old data because I just returned the data. And that doesn't work. But if I could do this, I derive from where, like I'm putting the data somewhere and then I derive its source, kinda. Then that query would never go stale because it always points to the but this is like, do you really want to think about this stuff? There is something weird about this. It's much easier for a React query because they have this nested thing. So you can define one query and then, well, it's kind of, there has to be a lot of weird bugs in React query as well. Like if you change the key thing of one query and then you have other queries that are actual extensions of that previous query or that parent query, then they're going to break. What I could do though, I could force you to return a function here. That could be a way to think about it. So no, I can't do that because that transform is supposed to work without deriving as well. Well, it doesn't matter though. I could still force you to return a function. So so it would have to be like this. So when you transform, you have to return a getter or a a derived, I guess is the right term. Oh. So that means this one, sorry, this one would have to do like this. They have to do this. The two things that bothers me. It's like you're returning this function to ensure not having stale references. And the other thing is that I have to fucking type it. That's super annoying. Like explicitly type it. That also really sucks. Yeah, I'm not happy yet. I think it was definitely an improvement. Yeah, but there's something fishy about this still. What are we gonna do about this? Yeah, I really dislike this. And it's very like confusing. You don't understand why it's there, right? So you have to like document it. And as a person who never reads documentation, I know that that's not ideal. But maybe we can. Like, what if I did const data equals reactive? Like, just to do something here. I don't have any good ideas. And then get data. Well, the thing here is that you really just want, yeah, data, whatever. What you really want to do here, you want to, yeah, given that it's an actual, let's see. Whatever. Let's just do return data. And then here, ugh. What should we call this? Let's call that data. Result or something. I don't know. But here you would have to actually like go through the result and then. Yeah. This is really annoying. Okay, let's just imagine I wanted to optimize this. Let's just, okay, just for now, like this wouldn't work with revalidate, but I don't care. So I would do data push to do. And then I would return. And I would return data here. Wait. Oh, and now this gives. Oh, not assignable? Why not? Why are you saying that? Oh, yeah. Sorry, I forced it to be a function. Sorry about that. Yeah, no, I don't like it. I don't know why I don't like it. It's this part. It's this part. Result for each. And just the fact that you have to like, just the fact that you have to, if you're ever gonna do something like this, it is to like optimally update the data. But if you're gonna do that, you have to manually figure out from this array what's been deleted and what's been added. Like it's such a fucking pain. There has to be a better way to do this. Okay, so yeah, we have to change perspectives here. So I don't think this is gonna work. I just don't like it. So what if we didn't create that other thing? What if this query is the source of truth? And what we rather needed to be able to do is to allow this this query to actually make changes to the root query or the parent query. Now, the challenging thing about that is you don't know the state of this parent query. So if you're going to make a change to it, you would have to like, you will kind of have to, yeah, let's just write that. Let's remove this. So we're not going to have this. We need to do queries there. But now we're just going to have fetch to do's, and we want to make sure that when we do query a single to do, we're going to fetch that to do, and then we see how do we actually make that value bound to this query. Let's see. That's so much nicer if we can do that. The problem is that we have no idea, as I said, what is the current state of this query. And it might not have been even fetched yet, right? But what we could do is that these queries are lazy. So if I access, sorry, not data, but todos.query, if I access this thing, either a promise or the state, it's gonna fetch it. So we could do the same for allowing you to update it. But how would we do that? Well, okay, this is interesting though. Oh, this is interesting. What if you can make this async and then you could just say cons to-dos.query. What's happening here? Await. Oh, sorry. Current to-dos. Promise. So this is gonna, if you don't, oh, this is interesting. This is very interesting because if you haven't like accessed these parent to-dos yet, which could be the case because you're opening like this page, like you're not actually listing the to-dos, right? So the component that actually accesses this query hasn't been mounted yet. So they haven't been fetched. But now since we're awaiting the promise of these to-dos so that we can actually add the to-do to it, it's gonna fetch it. So now we actually get current to-dos. And then we can evaluate if we need to add it. But do we even need to add it now? Because now we revalidated it. So now we fetched all of them. I think I'm thinking about this the wrong way. So if I fetch a single to do, why do I care about putting that in the parent? Why do I care? Because if I'm gonna access the parent, it's gonna revalidate anyways. Or if I'm gonna make a change to that single to do, I still gonna revalidate the parent. Hmm. Why do I need to do this? Why do I want to update the parent query? Well, yeah, why? Like if, okay, so the scenario here is like, I want to be able to open like a single to do. And if I haven't loaded all the to-dos, I want to fetch it and just set to do. And then if I happen to navigate back to the list of to-dos, then I'll go and revalidate that list. But I don't need to put this to do in the parent query because I'm going to revalidate it anyways. Maybe if I just make enough noises, it's going to resolve itself. Why do I want to? So why does React query do this? Because if you load a component with a specific to do, you fetch it, Like the only reason I can think of is like it can go stale. Like not thinking about the specific UI. Like theoretically, it can go stale, the parent query, because I might go and fetch a single to do, and I don't revalidate the parent, right? That could happen. But what's the simplest way of handling that? Like, could this just be like current to do's push data? Like, it wouldn't be safe to push it because it might already be there, right? But if you consider that, and given that this is actually by the way, I'm gonna remove that O thing. Or not remove it, but it's gonna be not a callback. So if this was like data.reduce, we're not immutable here, are we? So I'm making it a record, and then whenever I add a new, because now this is a record. Oh, this should have been a record. Why isn't that? Oh, interesting. It didn't work. Why didn't that work? So if I have a transform, the typing didn't work. Whatever. That sucks. I have to fix that. Why didn't the typing work? I am saying O, query of O. Oh, it's this one. Yeah, so this isn't push anymore. So this will be current to do's data ID equals data. You would do that instead. Oh, current to do's. Oh yeah, now it's a promise, but that's fine. That's something we could fix. But yeah, but there's something weird about this as well. I don't like it. First of all, this is a promise. And it has to revalidate everything just because you want to add this single to do. Which is kind of the whole point, is that you don't want to do that. But then if you're not going to do that, then this query needs a default value, which makes sense for like that type of query because it can be like an object or an empty array, but it doesn't make sense for other queries. This is a fucking mess. To me, it seems better to just manually handle this. So, okay, so if you do allow individual to-do queries, just be a bit careful. Make sure that if you navigate away from a to-do, that you revalidate your to-dos. Well, another issue is, what if you go back to... that's also a problem. Yeah, maybe that's even more the problem. So I'm caching these queries, right? So if I'm just returning the data here, and then I go back and revalidate the to-dos update, and then I go back to that specific to-do, but that's going to be a stale to-do query. So it needs to derive it. There has to be, the whole point here is to have a query that derives from another query. But that's like, it's so easy to say that it derives from another query, but there could be all sorts of stuff in that other query. There's no consistency. Like this seems like a problem that has to be solved at a very high abstraction. Like you can't, it's just so in the middle of like just fetching some data and then having like a proper concept of collections and records and like strong reference to items like an ID or stuff like that. Like manually dealing with this stuff, it's just... Like if we have queries that needs to operate on the same piece of state, I think you need to have that state somewhere else. So I'm not giving up on this. So now this query doesn't operate on shared state, right? So it's fine to just do this. But I could also say to-dos is this, sorry, data, whatever. And then I'm gonna expose that to my component. So I'm gonna do a getter here. But now it's gonna be like, how am I gonna make this query use this shared state as its value? So now there is really no, and how does it do it? Does it... It wouldn't have to be something like this, like, or result, whatever. Like just a very simple, weird one. Yeah, to do array. Like you would rather push it to that thing, and then you would have to derive. You would have to derive it. That's the only way to do it. But then that's weird if you just want to transform. Like there's a difference between transforming the value of this specific query versus operating with shared state and returning a getter to it. It's like two completely different things. There has to be a different way of doing this. Like, so one thing is like queries doesn't handle state at all. Didn't I point that out in the last video or last stream as well? What if we remove the value from queries? Like they can just fetch data and you have to put that data somewhere. It won't be on the query. But then when you consume the query, you want to access the fucking data. Yeah, I don't like this. I don't like working on this. Data management sucks. It just sucks. I wonder why it's so quiet here today. That's the thing working remotely. You just get this eerie feeling when there's like no activity on Slack or anything. Did I miss a memo? What are we gonna do about this? Are we gonna just drop it? Let's just make query a revalidate thing. And then if you actually want to optimize for like shared state and stuff, you don't use query. But that means you have to do a lot of manual stuff to get like the core benefits. Like, yeah, I think my statement in the last stream was like, the query is about fetching. It's not about persisting. It's like what you get, like the value you get is like being able to track its the process of fetching something. So you could argue that a query has a fetcher, but then you have to you have to put that data somewhere. So it's like maybe this isn't necessarily a transformer per se. It's more like data as to do. It's more like a way to put the data somewhere. And as part of putting the data somewhere, you are free to like transform it and do whatever you want. In this case, we don't want to do that. We just want to say to do stuff data is there. So you have to do this, right? There is no value. The value isn't being set by the fetch. The fetch is the only thing the fetch does, or the query does, is fetching the to-dos and handles any aborting of the of this thing. But if you have a successful fetch to-dos, it's gonna call a second callback with the data, and it's up to you to put that data somewhere. But put that data somewhere and say, where did I put it? And I put it here. Why aren't I getting an error here now? But that's the problem, because I'm gonna get a type error here, and I'm not sure why I'm not getting it. So that means, okay, this is interesting. So what if we just remove all of this? And you have to pass in fetcher, setter. And you have to return a reference to it. Now we should be getting some errors. This really sucks. Well, oh, what would happen if I, like, if I didn't, let's see. What would happen if I did to do this and to do this? No, that I have to explicitly type this. It's so freakishly annoying. But maybe there's a different way to express this. If we could solve that, I think we're onto something. So you have to express. Well, the weird thing here though is like now you have access to data in two different places, which is super weird. But maybe okay. Oh, wait a minute. What if we did this? What if we did this? Data to dos. So I'm gonna create a reactive of that data. Oh, this is interesting. Data to dos is data, and then data.to dos. What are you complaining about? Oh, sorry. Result. Okay, this is interesting because what we're doing now is, oh, wait a minute. This is interesting. So now what I did previously was that I actually like put a getter here, which was super weird. But what if the intention of query is to be the public interface to your components, which it literally is. But the data is something you keep internally. So you have an internal data reactive, and then whenever you want to create a query, you need to set that data internally, and then you return a getter for it. And if you don't pass that callback, okay, we could support both then. Okay, let's try this again. So, we allow you to, we're going to call this a setter instead. And if you have a setter, you have to tell us where you put it. And that's using returning a function. So let's try this again. I don't care. I'm fetching some data. I'm going to store it on this query. This is the only place the data lives. Fine. But then I want to share some data between queries. That's what I want to do. So what I do, I go and I create some reactive data internally. And I'm going to give it an initial value as to do. And now when I implement this, yeah, maybe I can call it to-dos. I'm going to say data.todos equals to-dos. And then I'm going to say, this is where you get the to-dos. And then if I add another query here, like if there was a single to-do thing, maybe we can fix that here now. So this would be to-dos, data, reactive. to-dos, which would be as yeah, sorry. So this would be, now I would just go through to-dos for each to-do, and I would say data to-do ID equals to-do. Why are you complaining? Oh, sorry. Oh yeah, and return data.todos. Wait, what did I do? Did I have? Oh, sorry, I didn't have the curly thingies. Okay, so now this is also interesting because now I'm just saying that I want my to-dos to be a record, right? So there's no like transformation into a record. I'm just saying this is my data, it's a record. Whenever I get the to-dos, I'm gonna shove those to-dos into that record. And I'm gonna return a reference to it. And then when I get a single to-do, I'm not gonna do any of this, but I'm gonna say data to-dos to-do ID. And then I'm gonna say how to get to those is by doing this. This is gonna work. This is definitely the smoothest approach we've had this far. And now I'm also set up for like evaluating if I should actually update it. So here I could like compare for every to do here, I could compare, do like a deep comparison kind of thing to see if I actually needed to update it. And I can transform it here into something else. Yeah, we're getting somewhere. The only thing that's weird now is if I don't want to have shared state, but I still want to transform. That is still weird. Because I can't just return the transform, right? It's almost like I want to make you do this. Because even like if you want to transform, right, you do want to. Yeah. Yeah, there's something about this. I'm actually quite happy about this. Maybe it's too complex. Maybe it's too much. But at least we got closer, which is good. So this would, like, you wouldn't actually write this inline, right? You would rather do update to-dos, right? So I would have fetch to-dos, and then I would have function update to-dos, where I would do this kind of thing. Oh. That is pretty nice. The only thing is this returning this getter. And you don't really have to return it. Well, yeah, no, I think it's good that you return it every time because you might want to change. Yeah, no, it would have to look like this. Yeah. It would have to look like this. But it doesn't look that bad, really. And then this would be like update to do. Fetch to do. Function update to do. To do. Yeah. This will be ID. This is pretty nice, I think. And kind of to throw some scenarios at it. I can, if I were to like, okay, let's take the most complex one. So I have this React query, which represents all the to-dos. And then you can query a single to-do if you want to do that. If I were to revalidate the data here and get a new list of to-dos, where maybe, yeah, it updates a single to-do, this single to-do query would still hold up because it would reference the shared state. So that's a good thing, and a very simple thing as well. Like we have one data fetching callback, and we have one yeah, the thing is that we don't really have a way to transform now. Yeah, it's almost like I want to force this to simplify the API. Like make it consistent. So you have consistent. Like you have a fetcher that's strictly for getting the data. And then you have well, of course, you could do the transformation in the fetcher. That's true. Yeah. Okay. Of course, you could do that. Yeah, I'm stuck on this being called a transformer. This is not a transformer. This is like you can transform it just fine in fetch to do's, right? Because you just fetch it, and when you return the thing, you transform the thing. And then update to do's is about like, no, I actually want to I want to handle how this, yeah, this callback is about, okay, I have this data, but I want to choose where it's stored and give you the reference to where it's stored so that I can share that data with other queries. That's it. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Because update to do's means, okay, thank you, fetcher. I have the data. Now I'm going to decide where to put that data. And I'm going to put that data in this shared data to do's record. And then I'm going to give you a reference to where that data is. So if anything is asking for the data for this query, this is where it's going to find it. Yes, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. And that makes the core query super simple. Either you can just fetch the data and revalidate it, or you can fetch the data, and in fetch to do's, you would of course do like data map and transform it to whatever you want. But if you want to share data between queries, you use that second callback to express where to save that data, and where the query can find it. Return where the query can find it. And now you know that every time this hits, like you use this as the default value. What did we do down here? That was also like super simple now. You use this as a default value. No, I want these to-dos to be a record. And whenever we update the to-dos now, we can just go through that data and we can update that record. And here I can do like as much granular updates as I want. Like I didn't have to reassign it. I could check if it already exists, and if it already exists, I could like go through like even just this. If data to-dos to-do ID, I could do something like object.assign data to-dos to-do ID. I could just do something simple like that, right? And the cool thing about Mobx is like if I do this object assignment, as I understand it, it's gonna like literally iterate all the properties of the new to-do and set on the old to-do. And then if that value hasn't changed, it's not gonna emit. It's not gonna emit anything. So if it has like exactly the same values, well, it wouldn't work for objects and arrays, of course, but that's something you would handle here, right? If you want to like really optimize. The only last like tricky part here is identifying like, so if I wanted to identify deletes here, I would have to go like, what is this? Twitch has a lot of spam. So I would have to go through each key. Yeah, so this is the horrible thing. Like if I wanted to detect deletes, I would have to go through all the keys of data to-dos and then see if I can't find it inside these to-dos. That's the sucky part of this. That's the sucky part of this. But that's just if you want to make this optimization. Yeah. Do I have some more music here? I think I need, it's Friday. I need the 90s. Yeah, but this is like super optimization, which you don't have to do. But this shared thing is important. So yeah, so doing something like this. I actually prefer putting this on the reduce itself, like so. Nice. I think this is it. I think this is how we're gonna deal with it. Oh. Okay, we're happy about this. I'm gonna build this because I really want to get further along and work on other stuff. So we have fetcher, and we have fetcher with a, what should we call it? Should we call it a setter? Yeah, it's a setter that returns a getter. Yeah, and this is fine. And then it just messed up this thing. Yeah. But this is what I don't understand. How do I make this arbitrary? Like, I think I have to remove these things for it to actually understand it. And that kind of sucks because I do want... Yeah, it's kind of nice to have it there. By the way, I have to actually implement this. So where do we call this thing? So this would be after it's okay. Oh yeah, now we need this freaking getter functionality, like type of function kind of thing. Then setter, because now setter is, no, it might not be there. Ugh. Oh fudge, how are we gonna do this? No, we're gonna allow it to, how did we do this? Did we allow it to set that value? So if we have a setter, we're actually gonna set the callback. Yeah, and then when you access state value, we're gonna call it if it's a function. Yeah. So that means we need to call it here. But if I don't have a setter, this sucks. And I'm not gonna actually, oh yeah, that was the fetcher. Do I need to pass the query state on the fetcher? No, because we're not gonna mutate anything there. It's just gonna fetch data. And then this setter should only be, why are you complaining? Oh, of course. Value setter. Oh, we're not gonna call you. We're gonna just return you as is. Yeah, what's interesting here is how we... No, wait a minute. We talked about this. Like if I await the promise... Oh yeah, sorry. No, it's gonna be fine. So we do want to do the setting. But here the promise is a fulfilled or a rejected promise. So it's kind of weird that, no, it's correct. It should be like this. And then if we go and grab the promise, we're gonna den it. So if return, I'm gonna call it. And the reason this thing was wrong now, yeah, it's because we need, yeah, sorry. This is gonna be a suspense. Oh, that's interesting. Ah, wait. Ah, fuck, we have another problem. Dagnag it. Because now we're returning. Ah, that doesn't work. Because now it's not really a suspense promise. How the hell are we gonna do this? So we kind of want the value to already be evaluated in the suspense promise, but if it's already evaluated there, it will no longer be derived. Which means that if that promise is consumed on the to-do, it could be referencing something stale. So we can't do that. Oh, wait a minute. No, not wait a minute. Well, the point is, the promise, like if you await the promise, can that promise be bound to the value? So if I go, for fuck's sake. So if I go and revalidate the to-dos, and then I await the promise of a single to-do, that's going to point to the all to-do. So I open a to-do, I go and revalidate the parent to-dos, I go back to the to-do, and now the promise is stale. Oh my god, I can't take this. Now that promise is stale. Yeah, so that needs to be, consuming that promise, it needs to be derived as well. Like everything needs to be derived. Whenever you access the current value of that query, it needs to run the getter so that it gets the actual value. And with a promise, I would have to do it here. But if I do a then here, then it's no longer a suspense promise, which means I will have to, do I really have to check? And I guess the biggest problem is like, if this promise is actually pending, no, that's not. What? How would that work? Yeah, that's the biggest problem. Like, for fuck's sake, what if this? it runs the promise, and I'm awaiting the pending promise, right? The first thing I do is I go and just await. I await the promise, but here we just return. Wait, what happens here? Observable promise. Oh yeah, sorry. So this observable promise actually returns the result value, which is the function, right? But this is not going to work. Damn it. But does that mean... Does that just mean that the promise is... Okay, I have a feeling that setter should be somewhere else. It doesn't feel right to have it there. So I'm fetching the data. But now the promise doesn't necessarily represent what I do in the setter. Like if I make any change to the value there, I might do that. Yeah, no, this is not gonna work. Damn it. Damn it, 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 damn it. Yeah, this sucks. This sucks big time. Why did I even start this? The whole thing I wanted to do was just have this single reactive primitive, and everything else should be patterns. Like you shouldn't have these fucking abstractions. Because they're so like... I don't like them at all. I'm so sick and tired. Like I love designing APIs, but these kinds of APIs, like these kinds of abstractions, they're just horrible. Like it's almost like... but making them patterns is too boilerplatey. It's just too much stuff that needs it. Just even the mutation. It's like you have this promise, you have to handle calling the mutation while the other mutation is running with an abort controller. You have to handle that. You have to handle exposing the optimistic, like the params you pass to the mutation so you can show optimistic updates. Like it's so much stuff you have to implement for every single mutation that is just horrible. So you have to have an abstraction around it. But well, what if we just kept a reference? What if we somehow just kept a reference to the getter? Oh, wait a minute. What if inside here? Yeah, so if the result value, oh, this is interesting. So here, if type of result value equals function, we're actually going to call it. So that means if you consume this promise, no, it can't be like this. It needs to be where you consume the promise. But if we do that, it's no longer a suspense promise. That's the thing we have to fix. Oh, I'm about to pee in my pants. Like this is where we consume the promise. So this is where it needs to. Yeah, but the problem is if it's a pending promise. Oh, but I can still make it. Yeah, that doesn't matter. What if I make, let's see, I'm gonna fix one. Oh, fetch. Oh, does that return a promise? Should it return a promise? State internal. Isn't this execute query? Yeah, wait a minute. What if we do active internal state? And then we rather return active internal state. Active internal state. Yeah, and then let's say query state of promise. Yeah, that's fine. And then we return active internal state. So now we can say promise. And we can also say, where was the thing? Here. Internal state. Active internal state. Yeah, sorry. Const. Okay, we're gonna do this. Then we're gonna do fetch, or we're gonna say state internal. And then this internal state. Now this is an actual thing. Internal state of promise. Oh, fetch. Yeah, so this fetch is now. Yeah, sorry. But what we can do a trick here. So we do return fetch promise. That's fine. So what we now we have a suspense promise, and what we want to make sure of is when we consume this promise and it's fulfilled, that we actually call the function, like call the getter. It feels like I'm implementing this the wrong place. Damn you, Apple Music. Yeah, it feels like I'm implementing it the wrong place. Uh, and the problem isn't the state. The problem isn't this query. I think. Yeah, because the query is taking it from. Sorry, where do we set the value of the value? Yeah, here we set the value. So here we can set like a getter, and we can use the result on the promise, like the actual value here. Check if it's, and that's fine. So every time you access the result value, you'll derive the state of the query. But if you consume the promise itself, you'll consume the function. And even on the actual promise that we extend with a value, we also need to return type of function. Because if it throws to suspense, React is going to look at the value and going to return the value, which is, yeah. So there's like 3 different places you can consume the value. It's from the query state, it's from the actual promise itself, and then it's from the value on the promise used for suspense. So yeah, like you can consume it with suspense, promise, and just a plain object, state object. That doesn't make things easier. But okay, this is solvable. When we add this create fulfill promise, also here we can fix it. That's fine. Like you would never use a query that actually returns a function. So it's fine to think of this getter, but you could argue that this getter thing is something that should be like defined somewhere else. But you want, yeah, no, but I think it's fine. The point is just so we do need, okay, so let's go back to this. So with this fetcher, if we have a setter, we're going to say setter data, or we're going to just return the data. This is fine. So now we're getting the getter function on our promise. So now we just have to make sure that that getter function is called when it needs to be called. So here, return type of value equals function, call the value, or just return the value. And the same for create observable promise, create fulfill promise. If you're trying to get the value, return type of, and that type of value equals function. You're going to call it. And if not, we're just going to return the value. But then we have the tricky one. Tricky, which is here. So let's imagine that we actually have a pending promise that we are consuming. And that pending promise is gonna return a function. So here, I have to look at this implementation again. How does this work? So we do create observable promise where we return the actual so we get back the result value. We get back the actual result value. So, but React will consume this promise through through the promise property, but also in your state management, you'll consume that promise through that property. So if this thing is pending, it will be like then this thing. But if I do a then there, then I break suspense. So we kind of have to but even if I identify this as a pending promise, like it's kind of funny because we're already creating like, it's almost like I wish I knew what the value was before I had it. Because we are creating this suspense promise, but then when we get the promise, we just have to recreate it. Maybe that's fine. Let's see. Switch internal state dot promise dot status, and if it is fulfilled, we're gonna return create fulfilled promise. Create fulfilled promise, and we have to do that like internal state dot promise, then and then check the value type of value equals function value or value. And then again, we have to check here. Okay, I guess we can do like result value would then be function. I just feel worse and worse the more code I write here. This doesn't feel right at all. And then I can just do result value here. We don't really care about this one. And then I can do the same here, result value. What I don't quite get now is if it's pending, because now I'm like, no, because I'm overriding it at the consumption point. So this is still going to run all the internal logic. Oh my God. But I guess I can, like, I can at least check if I have a setter here, right? That's the thing I haven't been doing. Because if I have a setter, it means that I wouldn't have to do this wrapping, but it feels incredibly icky. I don't like it. Why, oh why, oh why? Yeah. But what I don't... Oh, one thing I'm forgetting. One thing I am forgetting is React will not resolve the actual promise. Oh, I wonder what's gonna happen there. Oh, fudge. What's even gonna happen there? Like, because what's gonna happen is it consumes a promise, and then React is gonna make it... It's gonna wait for that promise in the suspense boundary, and then it resolves the component. But as it's resolving the component, I'm also updating the promise. Like, I'm setting the promise value, which means that there's another reconciliation happening. That's also weird. I shouldn't do that. Like, I don't think I should set anything. Where's the thingy? Hello. Unsettled. Where am I passing that thing? Where's the... Yeah, here's the callback. You see this? I'm setting the promise here. I don't think I should do that. That's wrong. That is definitely wrong. Because if I'm consuming the promise... Yeah, no, I should only wrap... Yeah, sorry. This isn't correct. Well, I can change it in the internal state, but I shouldn't change the query state, because that means it will actually reconcile again, which it shouldn't do. Oh, sorry. Yeah, because I'm not consuming the query state, of course. Why do I have... Wait a minute. Query state, what's that referring to? And this is weird. This is very weird. Why am I doing this? I think only the internal states should have the promise. Yeah, wait a minute. Why do I even have a setter on the promise? I shouldn't have a setter on this. I should... Yeah, sorry. The reason I've had a setter here is because I thought I would need a React to update the promise, but I don't need that. React is going to do this on its own. So if this promise is... Oh, let's remove all this stuff. It's not going to fix the issue, but if React consumes a pending promise, it's going to use the suspense boundary and wait and reconcile again when it resolves. I don't have to think about that. And if it's already resolved, it doesn't need. Oh, wait a minute. Ah, fuck. It's. No. For fuck's sake. Oh, I'm gonna stop the stream. This is too much for me. The problem is, what if I update the value of the query? I have to update the promise to make React reconcile again. But I only do that if it's a fulfilled. Oh, for fuck's sake. I shouldn't do that if React is consuming a pending promise, because then React is going to cause the promise to resolve and render the component or reconcile the component again. But if I'm, yeah, so if it's going from pending to fulfilled, I shouldn't set the promise. But if it's going from fulfilled to fulfilled, then I need to set the promise. Okay, I have to fix that. Okay, so we are gonna actually set the promise, but we're only gonna set it if I move from yeah. So this one is only gonna happen if query state status equals resolved or well, not pending. Then I want to update the promise. Oh, this is query state.state. There's too much state in here. Because if I update this during pending, then I'll cause an additional reconcile, and React is going to do that for me. But does that mean no? Because the getter is taking it from the internal state. Oh, for fuck's sake, this is complex. We do not need to set the promise when pending, because if any active suspending is happening, React will trigger reconciliation. It might not be an issue, actually. Like, it's just React probably optimizes this. Maybe it's fine, but there could like technically be a jank if or there's at least an unnecessary render happening or reconciliation happening. Yeah. No, I don't think I have it in me to fix this this thing. I would have to create a new promise. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe there's a trick I can do. Because we already have a getter on the promise. So what if wait, would that make any sense? So what if I make the no, that doesn't make any sense. No, it should make sense. So the actual return promise here. Could I make it return? What if we do this? Why are you complaining? Yeah, whatever. Because now it's settled, right? Create fulfilled promise. No, wait a minute. This is the fulfilled promise. Yeah. No, but every time I access it, it should. So this would only happen the first time I access it. Yeah. So it's basically when I consume it, I need to make sure I need to make sure that if it's fulfilled, I'm gonna create a fulfilled promise of. And if it's pending, yeah, it doesn't matter if it's pending or fulfilled, because I'm gonna consume the actual pending promise here. It's not like some. Oh, wait a minute, that's also a problem. Like I'm not actually consuming. What the hell am I actually consuming? I'm consuming the create observable promise. This is the promise. Oh, sorry. No, it is the actual, yeah, promise. Sorry. But then as soon as it's. Oh, wait a minute. So this basically means if internal promise of status equals fulfilled, it means that I can just return a fulfilled promise of, though I have to check the value if it's yeah, but if it's pending, no, I have to do the same on pending. So if it's not rejected, that's when I have to do that. Yeah. So if it's not rejected, well, no, I have to switch on this. Switch internal state, promise of status. If it's for fulfilled, I have to return. Oh. Well, I guess I don't need these ones now. Okay? No. But now we have to do like this double check. I think like if I create a helper for this, call value getter. If I create a little helper, call setter getter. Or unwrap setter. Oh, better off alone. Nice. Okay, so we call it unwrap setter. So what we're gonna get here is, well, unwrap getter. And we're getting like just some value here, right? Value unknown. And then type of value. Yeah, this is basically it, unwrap getter. So what we're gonna do is, first of all, if setter, if no setter, we're gonna just return, the thing, internal state promise. But if we do have a setter, we're gonna do unwrap getter, and then we're gonna unwrap getter. And then if it's pending, we're gonna do exactly the same. But we're gonna create a pending promise. Like this is not that really that important, creating the pending promise. Because if it doesn't have any status, React is gonna throw it to suspense anyways. And then if it's rejected, we're just gonna return the promise. Because there's nothing to unwrap there. Yeah, so, okay, this wasn't that bad. Maybe we can use this unwrap getter type of. Type of. Okay. Okay, this was rough. This was really rough. Yeah, and then it's just the final typing there. Maybe we can fix that. And then we can do another stream this weekend and we can try to see if we have anything that works for us. It bothers me, this what was it? Like, because it could be, do I just have to do like query T or query O? Oh, I just have to kind of match up the thing. That's nice. So this is just a culmination of both of these types. But they don't have to actually describe one or the other. It just have to have everything, I guess. Okay. Maybe we have a moment to reflect on this. Let's see if it like still runs the thing. Yarn dev 5173. Oh, it stopped running. Is this because I'm not updating it? That's interesting. I thought React would handle this. I'm gonna just check one thing. If not equal pending. So if I do this, it's simpler if I can just do this. Like any except. Okay, interesting. Okay, that's fine. Let's keep it like that then. Oh, but does that mean? Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so we have that thing. Hello. Nice. Revalidate. Behind the scenes, refetch. Nice. Okay. And this is like, there's a lot of functionality in there. And this is all we had to write. Fetching the to-dos, adding a to-do, revalidating when we're adding it. This is powerful stuff. So how would we do things differently if we wanted to yeah, what would I even want to do here? So here we have some to-dos. I'm adding in the data, I'm revalidating. It's all good. Yeah, I guess there isn't really. Yeah, I think we need a bigger example. Like the whole to-do thing. And my bladder is not ready for that. Yeah, we're gonna yeah, to just remove. Oop. Oh, it didn't work. Oh, did I revalidate? I don't think I revalidated. Await to do is query revalidate. Oh, it didn't actually remove it. Isn't that weird? Oh, maybe I have to refresh. That's weird. Oh, of course. No, it is weird. Unshift next to do data equals next to do's data. Oh, oh, of course. Sorry. Yeah, because I'm changing the the date there. So I want to remove, for fuck's sake. Oh, let's just give them fucking IDs. Yeah, whatever. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. But the whole point is like we would add the ability to add like actually look at a specific to do. And like normally in this kind of app, you always load all the to-dos, right? But what if you don't do that? What if you and another thing is like, what if you have it to do with an author ID and you want to fetch that author only when you're looking at that to do, right? That's another thing. That's another dynamic query. But then you probably don't fetch all users, right? But you want to keep that query around, and then if something else causes that user to update, Yeah, or maybe you would always want to, yeah, of course, you would always want to consume that user through a query. Um, yeah, but the point is that you can make that user update, and the query will always point to. Yeah, but in then that case, you would just. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so I think in like a big system, you would just have like one set of like data, reactive data, where you have like users, to dos, whatever, right? And then your queries will use its setter to set data in those in that data, and then return a reference to it. You would do that across the board. And when you have these dynamic queries, they would do the same. They would also have a setter where you set it in this general data. So so in this example of to-dos having a user, right? If there's yeah, because the query is for a single user, but you want to be able to, yeah, but anyways, if you always want to, yeah, it depends on what you want to do. Anyways, okay, I'm gonna stop streaming. But yeah, thanks for sticking with me here. Mm, this was rough, but I think we actually landed on something that, in the context of Mobx, actually makes sense. Like now we're able to share state between queries, and you can consume queries with suspense as a promise and as a state object. You can revalidate. You can safely revalidate across queries. We don't do any like manual optimizations when you refetch your data, but with the setter, you can do that, right? You can have a default initial value for your data, and then you rather manipulate that based on the new data you get. So that's really cool. And that's especially, the tricky thing is like deleting stuff. But that is like fundamentally tricky. But maybe we could have like some kind of utility that takes like, okay, you have an array and you define the key, and then you give it a record, and then you can like, okay, go and optimize this, or go and update this something. I don't know if it's necessary. But yeah, and maybe I'm that completely overdoing this. Maybe revalidating is fine. Okay, the kids are home. Okay, bye for now.